Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday evening. It is 9 o'clock. Time for a Tuesday night blether. But first, as always, a little music. Enjoy.
We are all the heirs to Scotland, as a nation proud we stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum.
Good evening, folks. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all cozy. I hope you are all comfortable. I hope you've all had a good weekend. And we have to, sadly, tragically, remember that the murdering goes on. Good evening, Streaky. I don't know if any of you watch Richard Medhurst I've been sub to him for a while, and he was giving out what seemed to me to be an incredibly sane reason for all this murder going on in Gaza at the moment. Now I can't say or prove how much of it, if any, is real and true, but it certainly makes a lot of sense as to what he is saying. And what he's saying is this is all to do with Israelis and Americans getting their hands on all that gas that lies beneath the Gaza, the rest of Palestine, in other words. Good evening, Budgie. Hope you're doing all right, my friend. And if you stop to consider that for a minute, it makes a lot of sense why the Americans will not do anything to stop it. Or at least this present regime. Now, whether a different regime will do anything or not remains to be seen. But we know that the other fellow is as pro-Israel as Biden is. I don't think much will change. Well, this is what I'm saying, Streaky. Well, you put a number on it, which I was unable to do. There's about $500 billion of oil underneath Gaza and the West Bank. I thought it was gas, or is it gas and oil? Could be both, you know. And that certainly puts a price on the people's lives, doesn't it? So if Trump gets in, the chances are that nothing much is going to change. Which is awful. Streaky is telling us, I heard there were 12 contracts handed out to US and UK firms days after the so-called October the 7th attacks. I wouldn't be at all surprised. I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's true. I wouldn't argue against you on this, Streaky. I just wouldn't argue against you. Which makes it, if it can be worse, it makes it worse. And I understand I understand why you're using all the cuss words. And I know how you, well, I'm sure I know how you feel because I feel the same way. And yet, the use of all that curse words, it doesn't help because I've used it all myself, and it doesn't take away the the enormous frustration, the anger that you feel. I know it doesn't take it away from me. And I agree with you. I don't think anyone else would get away with what they're doing. I no need to apologise, Streaky. Honestly, not on this occasion. There is no need. When I talk about it privately, I do more cursing than that. I swear to God, I do. I really do. That's what I'm saying. That's how I know it. It doesn't take away your anger and frustration. I know it doesn't. You would some, as you all know. I mean, quite often when you use curse words, it helps to relieve frustration and anger that you're feeling about something. But in this case, it's too enormous. The crime is so enormous that these words just don't have an effect really on them. I don't know. And it's not as if they can be isolated because they're more or less self contained. I'm talking about the Yanks. Americans are pretty well self contained. Streaky, I've got no love for the Palestinians, but what is being done to them is disgusting. Bombing kids and starving them, and all the misery inflicted on them for decades. Well, I'm the same. I don't have any direct connections with that part of the world myself. But I don't think you need to. I think all you need to do is be a human being with an average scale of emotions up and down to feel the way that people are feeling. It's just, it goes beyond words ultimately. Ultimately, you run out of words and ways to express it. It's dreadful. Dreadful. And of course, the simple answer will never be applied here. The simple answer is just stop doing it. But that's not going to happen. I don't see it happening. And I don't see anyone stepping in to make it happen. Good evening, Carol. Hamza will be, oops, Anglo. Hamza will be coming for me. We've all got our ways of letting off steam. I suppose that's the thing, Budgie. Good evening, Rory. In my dark moments, I think this is only going to end when there's no one left to kill. And what can you say about this nonsense about building a pier? You know, nonsense. Time. Just to waste time to make those foolish people, if there are any, foolish people think that the Americans are doing something to help. But you would need to be, in my opinion, you would need to be very dim-witted to believe that. They don't need a pier to bring in food. There's all those trucks sitting in the desert waiting for the gates to open. And again, I don't understand why somebody just doesn't blast those gates open and roar the trucks in. But we're not there. Perhaps it's not that simple. Well, that just shows you the control, Streaky. It is nonsense. The US and Israel are two peas in a pod run by small hat lunatics. Good evening, Doberman. Well, never again can they ever play the victim card to anyone else. Not ever again. How will anyone ever forget this? I think all the children of these parents, these mums and dads that are being slaughtered, these children will never forget or forgive. Streaky. I don't like Galloway, but he is the man to put our stinking politicians to task. Well, I'm going to assume that you know about the Labour Party corruption. And the more light that's shone upon the Labour Party, the more corrupt it obviously is these days. We've been married for 33 years, says Rory. That's an interesting number of years to have been married, isn't it? 33. A long time. Yeah, well, what seems to be happening is that you get sent to Israel um, if you're being considered for something or other. Either if you're considered to be an MP, or if you're an MP and you're being considered for, as it happens to be now, front bench or something like that, you get sent to Israel for a wee holiday and at their expense, get wee interview and checked over. And if you come out okay at the other end, then you will progress in the Labour Party. This is what seems to be coming to light. Yeah, that's it. That's it, my friend. That's exactly it. So not only have they got one of their own as head of that party now, they have now would appear to have full control of that party, or what's left of it. It's shocking, but in the same level as it doesn't really surprise me, but it's shocking when it comes to the fore. Ah, there is our William. No time for politicians, especially ones that push the gene juice. I didn't know he was one of them. Nor should we forget them, any of them. I would agree, William, totally. Absolutely, totally. When it comes to things like that, people should be left alone to make their own mind up. It should have nothing to do with government or politicians. It should be between you and yourself. And if you have a belief in God, it should be that God should be part of your decision making. Well, thanks, William. I'm feeling not too bad these days, except for my leg. My leg bothers me. Well, a couple of paracetamols takes the edge away. Well, I could do without not without having it, but not the leg. I mean, the pain. uh, but as the weather gets better, I'll be able to get out and get some exercise. And I hope that will help the blood clot. The doctors tell me that it may never go away entirely. So we'll see. Anglo not allowed thoughts in Scotland, according to Humza Useless, after the 1st of April. Yeah, it's getting worse here. It's actually getting bloody worse. You wouldn't have thought so, but it is. These people need to go. We need to get rid of them. I wish the party was in a position to have a serious go at getting power in this country. But obviously, we're not in that position. Not numerically and not financially. We can only do our best. Oh, streaky, what's this just saying? Barack Obama called into number 10 Downing Street to see Rishi on a courtesy call last night. More like new instructions for the UK. More like. It's definitely more like it, Streaky. They must think our heads button up the whack, I'm telling you. They must. You think we'll all be together, William? I'll take a guitar and we can all have a sing-song, eh? uh, if I went Muslim, you'd see me rolling and Sharia patrolling. Yep. Yeah, that's it. William, you bring your harmonica and I'll bring my guitar. And we're going to have a sing-song. Cell block each. uh, I think he has, Rory. I look at it the opposite way from you. Can't believe that Hamza is bringing in this law on April Fool's Day. Well, that's exactly the day that he would bring it in, is it not? Yous are all fools. To me, is the message. You're all fools. You're all going to abide by it. He obviously has no idea of British humour. He may not appreciate British humour, Rory. I would agree with that. But I'm sure he knows exactly what he's doing. Yeah. We're the fools. So we are. That's exactly what we are. We are the fools. We've allowed these people to come to our country. We've allowed them to take part in our political life and rise to top positions. We have allowed all of that to happen. All of us. It would never happen in their country. So yeah, that would make sense to me. It does make sense. So I wasn't surprised when I heard this April Fool's Day. Yeah, we're the fools. To me, it's just another slap in the face, Rory. On top of. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, nobody's getting a pass on it. It's going to, it's going to really strangle comedians. Not so much actors. Actors only read the lines. it's back to writers again, you know. Same as the comedians, the people that write their material. Absolutely. That's us. That's us. Gullible fools. We allowed this to happen. Outrageous. When I first discovered that you didn't even have to be a British citizen to be an MP, I realised we were absolutely screwed then. Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right, Doberman. It covers the plays as well. Dramas, plays, sketches, comedic sketches, anything creative at all is going to be cut down, going to be shut down, should I say, and cut down. 1985. Yeah. As I say, we're the fools. We go along with it. Outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Well, that's correct, Anglo. It speaks for itself. And we all can go back to the rivers of blood and all that. I like brown sauce. I used to like brown sauce. It's changed it a long time ago. Changed the ingredients. In fact, I kept an empty bottle, washed it all out, kept it for many, many, many years. And whenever that subject came up, this is true, whenever this subject came up about sauce, I would go to the kitchen and fetch this bottle that gave the original ingredients and a modern bottle with the changed ingredients. I don't use it anymore. I haven't used it since they changed the ingredients. Didn't know that, Treble connoisseur. Changed the taste entirely. Put the ingredients they put in were cheaper, and it changed the whole flavour. Enough for me to notice it instantly. Eventually, I threw this bottle out, this bottle that I'd kept. Streaky Wales as a Zimbabwean born leader who lived in England most of his life. As Wales was too racist, but he came back and cheated in a council election and now describes himself as Welsh. What can you say? Good evening, Bass. Budgie. I don't like tomato sauce either, Budgie. Call me a trader. Well, I'm a brown sauce man myself. I used to be before they changed it. I hate tomato sauce, and I don't like tomato sauce either. I'm not fussy for tomatoes. We'll do a tomato in the summer when it's maybe G. So there you go. Ultra nationalist is here with us. All right, fellow nationalists, just got here. Oh my gosh. England, Scotland, Wales, and the Republic of Ireland have unelected ethnic minority leaders. You gotta love democracy, says Anglo. Well, when you lay it out like that, you can just see how ridiculous the whole thing is. I think you're absolutely right there, Bass. The new coloured leaders are plans from the Long March. I would agree with that. I would. I wouldn't agree here, Rory. Tomato ketchup is definitely not for me. Go with the malt vinegar, of course, but not tomato ketchup. Definitely not. Scotland forever, absolutely. Scotland forever. What can we say? Scotland forever. I always thought that, and this was something that was discussed over a long period of time in this house. I always thought that what was really required was a different political structure to create more of a balance between the three kingdoms. Am I right there? Yeah, Scotland, England, Wales, three kingdoms, and Northern Ireland, four. I'd rather see Ireland being uh, joined. That's what I'd like to see, but that's further away than ever now. What are you saying, Ultra? The next Labour leader of Scotland is a Bakito. He's the next leader of Scotland. The doom and gloom doesn't end with Hamza, son of Balka. No, it doesn't. No, he seems set to come in. Depends on what happens, though, with this unveiling of the Labour department down in Westminster. If that gets ripped wide open, that could scupper his chances up here. But knowing the Scottish people, it won't stop them from voting Labour's way. They did it all my life. Until SNP came along, which is awful. So, but even if that does happen, even if that scandal, that absolute travesty spills out from Westminster to Scotland, um, who's left? Who will the Scottish people turn to? If we were in that position, it could be us, but we're not in that position. Mushy peas. I believe in Scotland there are places, Rory, where you can buy that. A fish supper with or without mushy peas. Where I live is not one of them, thank goodness. Doesn't sound very nice as far as I'm concerned. Up in the East Coast, I believe that's commonplace. Skywalker told me that when he was here visiting before he left us. But no, I don't know what's going to happen as far as this scandal down south. It just shows you how rotten and corrupt the whole Westminster scene is and how it needs to be done away with. To the dark side, yeah, that's this angle. I watched a video on YouTube, 15 most dangerous prisoners in UK. Guess who was at number one? John. The guy who done Joe Cox. Oh, how can that be? It must be worse than him. It has to be. Surely. To the dark side. I never followed that very closely, to be honest. The Joe Cox. Something tells me where he wasn't a vicious killer. Not saying he totally innocent. Obviously, if he killed the woman, he wouldn't be totally innocent. But I don't think he was. He was a vicious killer as such. I think he was more to be pitied than anything else. I don't have any of that either. Uh, yeah, I thought that was what was in my mind. This was in my memory. He was more of to be pitied than anything else. No, he was not an out vicious thug. Well, maybe you're right, Trevor, and perhaps he was stitched up. It's hard to know what actually goes on in these cases. Ultra saying, I wouldn't vote for any of them. I don't consent to their poison. I'm okay, Mr. Johnston. How are you? I want to chap doors. I'm okay, thank you. Thanks for asking. Oh, there's the Earl of Stair. I am indeed, sir. I am indeed. At the moment, I am well. Apart from my leg bothers me, but it's nothing to, you know, it's not a big complaint considering. Why did we not touch upon this last week? Are there a lot of fatties in Scotland? Asks Mr. Rodney Johnson. Well, there's always been a problem with gravity in Scotland. And I say that because it appears that once women, especially women, get to, you know, middle and late 30s, there seems to be a gravitational problem. They begin to, the shape begins to change into more like a pear shaped. That's what I remember, Streaky. The poor guy had a really low IQ. He never offered a defence in court. Now, that's what I remember. He was a bit stitched up. He might have done it, but, you know, what kind of thinking process goes on in the mind of someone like that? I don't know. I don't know. Not in my house, who says Doberman. But aye, hunters and hunters of fatties. Funny all the Tories backing Russian. They go south, says Streaky, like effing avalanches. I think Labour should let Diane Abbott back in the party. They need some high IQ individuals for when they get into power. Yeah, well, some people would agree with you there, Mr. Johnson. Perhaps there should be like a test to become an MP. Do you know, can you put on a pair of shoes on the right feet? If you can do that, you can stand for elections. Wee ankles is the key when it comes to picking a female. It's as good as any. Oh, there's Scott's Armour. Good evening, my friend. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well, sir. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, everyone is telling me this, Scott's, that I'm looking all right. Um, no, the main thing is, as far as I can tell, is rest, good food, and trying to get a bit of fresh air. But you know, at the mercy of the weather when it comes to that. And I hope you're doing all right, you and the family. I agree with that. I don't have the facilities to do any of that. I planted my tatties in planters today and tomato plants for greenhouse. I recommend it. It's addictive and good food keeps us busy in summer day. It does. We need to have you back on the channel again. It's a while since you've been on here. I popped my head out the door today to see somebody out of the house. It was absolutely bloody freezing. But I do try and get out and do this. I've got this little walk round the back of the house to exercise this leg and this lung. Not that the lung will ever be whole again, obviously, but exercise won't do either the leg or the lung any harm, and I need to do it as much as I can. But it's the weather, trying to rope. Try a rope of crack now and again to put a spring in your step. Crack will put more than a spring in my step. That's for sure. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, Scots. And I believe it or not, good to hear. Keep it up. We have many more players to have. Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. I always look forward to them. You have more people to reach. Well, thank you. and more time with the family to spend. Well, I'm going to start a new project. In fact, I had planned to start it today. And the new project is to record, something like 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 at the most, as an individual video, which may or may not be connected to the stream. Like tonight, for example, if I were to do this tomorrow, the recording that I do tomorrow may not necessarily have anything to do with any of the stuff that we're talking about tonight. It might have and it might not. So I'm leaving that all open-ended. But the idea is to have these self-contained short videos and to add to the output rather than try and go back to 3 times a week, which I know I won't be able to do. So I thought of this, and I was going to start it today. And of course, what happens is, member of the family phones in the middle of the afternoon, and that was it. I was all going. I'm hoping I'll get to it tomorrow to do this. And again, it would be one of these things. I'll put the video up there, and people can add or comment, or just simply go and read it or listen to it, should I say, depending on how you feel or depending on what I've said. So that's the idea, a kind of open-ended but short thing. Oh, God, no, I didn't know angle. I don't have any form of television in the house. Did you see? No. At the White House. St. Patrick was an immigrant. Was he not? You mean he wasn't an immigrant? I thought everybody was an immigrant. As opposed to the slave he was. Everybody was an immigrant except those people who are immigrants. All those black people who belong here, we're the immigrants, according to them. They're not, but we are. Imagine if there was video footage of Corbyn and Diane Abbott making love back in the day. Oh, come on. I was looking forward to having something to eat, and you're talking about that. Come on. If you're not an immigrant, well, that's true, Street. If you're not an immigrant, you're a racist. Or both. You can be both. Yep. You can be both. That's a thought, isn't it? Oh, it's a thought. Jesus. Oh. Never mind. But yeah, I'll need to get Scott's armor back on the channel. Thank you for your prayers, Thomas Aquinas. I've been praying for your health, John. Thank you. I appreciate that. It seems that our Lord has been listening. I think he has. I do. I'm not just saying that. I do. There must be other things for me to do. That's the way I see it. I'm obviously got things to do. Don't ask me what. But I would agree. I think he has been listening. I take this as a reprieve, if you like, or a continuation. Well, thankfully, I'm not having sauerkraut tonight, Mister Mister Johnson. No, streaky. Piers Corbin was on a live stream last week, and I asked him what his favourite Piers was, Bournemouth, etc., and he replied Brighton. I didn't grill him politically. Oh, Jesus. Well, the good Lord wills everything. Good Lord, the treble M. Jings to hang. That's something else, isn't it? My aunt is 104 today. Wow. Absolutely. Wow. I hope she's in good health for that age. I do. I hope she's in great health. It's amazing. 104. Chings. 104. So let me just add on while I'm on the subject of this new thing that I'm hoping to start. She's like a horse. That's good for her. That's great. Superb. My mother was the same. She was the same. There was absolutely nothing wrong with her. I mean, she died of old age. That's what she died of. And she was like like your aunt. She was eating fabulously well. Well, I'm not keen on that expression either. Anglo. I don't like the term, says Anglo. Judeo Christian values. No, I don't like it at all. Like we're mates. They detest us, and it's mutual for me, says Anglo. No, this is a subject that needs to be clarified. People should not use it. Well, there you go. An oxymoron. There is no such a thing as Judeo Christian values. There is no connection. This is a subject that I would say, in my opinion, for what my opinion is worth, that Scott's Armour knows a lot about these types of uh, subjects. I would argue much more than I, and he would definitely agree that there's no such a thing. Oh, that's a good question. How long will David Lammy live for? Well, I don't wish the man ill, but I think that's right. I think that's the origins. I think it's an American piece of nonsense. But they're terrible for that, taking the language and destroying it in all sorts of different ways. I'm confident that's where it originated, in USA. And probably in these evangelical so-called Christian churches. Bass is saying he agrees true believers see us not worthy, and Jesus a false Roman. Stupid Yank, says Streaky. Can't even pronounce hair properly. No, it's a Yankee term. If I met pagans, have I met any pagans? Asks Mr. Johnson. Have I met any pagans? No, I don't think I actually have met any pagans. I've met a lot of people who claim, and I put this emphasis on the word claim, to be atheists. But I don't really believe people when they say they're atheists. I've noticed that many atheists become religious the older they get. Atheism is usually, not always, there are people, notable exceptions, of course, who stick by that. Uh, the people who claim to be atheists generally, the older they get, or if they become seriously ill, they revert back to belief systems. If you're pagan, says Doberman, if you're pagan, you're blood sacrificing or larping balls. I would tend to agree there. Agreed entirely. This is another thing they're trying to push this. You know, it's not fair to people that aren't Christian. They've got all sorts of nonsense reasons why we should adopt happy holidays. No, it's Christmas. It's meant to be according to what we know, what we accept. Uh, it's Jesus' birthday. That's when he was born. Christmas. So we should say Merry Christmas. God sees everything, says Treble. Well, of course. Not only does God see everything, God knows everything. Knows everything that has been and will be. I don't know. Are there any hot pagan chicks? I don't know. Gods, plural, gods demand blood. And then he is pointing out that subtle but crucial difference. God doesn't. And that's very true, of course, the subtle difference. And it may be subtle, but it's very important, the difference that he's pointing out, of course. I was raised a Roman Catholic, but in today's world, it says ultra-nationalist. Oops. The Pope is a pro uh, BLK nonce. Oops, I hold this here. Nonce. So, Fucht, I stand with free thinking normal people. We need to unite against evil. Yeah. Well, I think if you are if you were bothered, and you're obviously not bothered enough about it, Ultra. Um, there's a huge movement within the Roman Catholic Church against uh, Francis. Huge movement against him because he is seen by so many as a heretic, and he is. Like yourself, I was born in that religion myself, brought up that way. I lost my faith very young, of course, in life. I say, of course, due to my circumstances, but uh, and it's taken me a lifetime to work through philosophies, etc., to get to the position I'm in today, which is based on some philosophies that I've read and accepted, and some spiritual experiences that's happened to me personally. And between these two, I've come to accept that you can't really take a position of being an atheist, that's for sure. You just cannot. You just look around the natural world, and that alone dispels any notion that this is accidental. But as far as the Roman Catholic Church is concerned, it's in crisis. They they've got one hell of a cleaning out job to do, and they need to start with the Pope and work their way down. Disgraceful the state that church is in. And I could talk about that for long enough, and I'm sure you could too. But suffice to say, he is a heretic and he shouldn't be in a job, and obviously was manoeuvred to get into place to, to finish the church off as best he can. Don't know about that. I'm not sure about that angle, whether he would be speaking German or not. The Queen was a hot pagan chick. When she died last year, she looked sexy in that red dress in 21, perhaps. He watches all of us, Julia. It's a place I've never been, Budgie. I spent Christmas in France once. They laughed and loved the way I said Bon Noel in a Glasgow accent. Never been there. Celtic Christianity is where it's at, says Streaky. Mr. Johnson, have you heard of a guy named Handsome Truth? No, I have not. Ultra is saying, I hate the Pope. He's the Antichrist. I don't know if he is, but he's good. If he's not the Antichrist, he's definitely a good mate in the Antichrist. Well, there's the answer to your question there from Rory, an old school friend of mine, became a chief druid in England. He met a few hot pagan chicks at Stonehenge. I tell you, life can be very peculiar. I don't refer to him as the Pope, says Rory. Nor do I. I usually refer to him as Big Frank, like a gangster. I've no idea, Mr. Rodney Johnston. Did Diana ever have an abortion? No idea. Anglo. Rory Herbert's relatives fought the Romans in the Druids' last stand. I like it. Anglesey. The last stand was in Anglesey. And they lost. Oh, there's Robert. Good evening, Robert. I hope you're well, sir. And you're doing okay? Pope Francis is a servant of collectivism, equality. White men and women are made for each other to serve one another. Everything that God never intended for us. He's talking about collectivism, I assume. Even evil will not win, Ultra. It just won't. We have God on our side. Can't win. Won't win. The current Pope has dismantled Catholicism. Catholics are also the same as Christian. Don't let divide and conquer divide us. Evil won't win. No, it won't. Yeah, I've done, and him in particular, Big Frank, has done enormous damage already. Enormous damage. Well, if you were a megalomaniac, Mr. Johnson, you wouldn't be asking the question. And therefore, by asking the question, tells you that you are not. That's my answer, my friend. Good evening, Linda. Yeah, good. Happy birthday to Treble M's auntie. 104. Oh, that's something. A celebration in itself. And no doubt about that. No doubt about that. So yeah, I was going to mention this thing again about this starting up these separate short videos. So if something comes from these videos that you want me to talk about, I might mention something, and you want me to take it further, let me know either on the regular streams or by laying a comment at the short video, and I'll make a note of it, and then I can bring it up in conversation on a normal live stream. I think you just come here for the song, Linda. Anyone else getting a Canadian roofer? Bargaining freaks. Meetings ram down their gullets. No, can't say that I am. So bear that in mind when I get these things started, these short term or short length videos. If there's anything in there, questions or topics even. Well, that's a nice thought. I would like that thought to be real. I don't know if it is, but I would like it to be. We're all together, we could sing it all together. I had that in mind when I wrote the song. It would be for a large group, the larger the better. for singing it together. Like the intro song, they were written with large numbers of people in mind. I would love to hear that as the author, of course. It'd be brilliant to hear that. You know, like a football stadium or something of that nature. I carried on, Mr. Johnson. I carried on. I didn't stop. I found it very frustrating, of course, but I'm going to be honest, as I always try to be with all of you. When I was out and about, and I didn't stick to the rules. So, here we go. When I was out and about, and I would go for walks, the thing that I noticed right away was how quiet the town was without traffic and how clean the air was. And it was. The air was very clean and the town was very quiet. What is the biggest crowd you have played music in front of? Oh, that would probably be when we supported the Kinks. So that would be, well, I don't know, 2,000-3,000. Yeah, something somewhere around there. Somewhere around there. That was down in Ayrshire, by the way. That was the first time they had come to Scotland. They hadn't done that one yet. When they were on that tour, their number one was "See My Friend." So Waterloo Sunset they hadn't written that one. Yeah, if you like, it was a sort of highlight of our career. We did also support a group called Sounds Incorporated, but they seem to not have the same recognition as the Kinks. But they had a few number one hits as well, Sounds Incorporated. But unlike the Kinks, Sounds Incorporated were purely an instrumental group and not quite teenagers either. They were a bit older than us. And when we saw them when we were in the dressing rooms, they had sheet music that they were going over. So they were what I would consider to be, proper musicians in that sense. Taxman Tay. I mean, there was other groups we supported, not just the Kinks. The Searchers. I Need You is my fave Kink song. Love them all, though. I've got as far as I know, I've got all material here and various albums and whatnot. I just thought they were really, really good, and I learned a lot. I've said this often. I learned a lot about songwriting while listening to their material. I used to say that to It's a Duck when we were talking about songwriting, and I would say that to him. I learned a lot about songwriting from just listening to his material. Uh, they get Ray Davies always tells the story of how he feels, and perhaps it's true what he says. I don't know, but he claims that they were deliberately, the Kinks and all the other groups were deliberately kept out of America until the Beatles could get there. This was done deliberately to make sure that the Beatles, uh, if you like, topped the charts. They got first bite of the American market. As I say, I don't know how true it is. Streaky, is it true you groped Cilla Black after she asked you for an autograph? Well, what do you think? Again, this doesn't surprise me, Ultra. I hate today's music, says he. I even let my kids listen to all the old music of the 70s and 80s and 70s. Today's music is poison. My kids love the old tunes, and I will accept that without any difficulty because it seems to be the case everywhere you turn. Phony Beatlemania, says Streaky. I reckon you did the right thing and gave her a squeeze, says Streaky. Oh God, no. No, no. No, 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 no. No, no. No. Met a lot of the boys. We're all boys. I met a lot of the lads in the groups over the years. Some you may know and some you may not know. I listen to Gothic radio in my freaking car to block out the propaganda. At least I don't know what they say. Some tunes are good. Priscilla. Oh, you're into pop, are you, Julia? John Lennon has some dark secrets. He knew that he couldn't see the light of day. Some dark secrets. He knew that couldn't see the light of day. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll give you my tuppence worth if I don't even think it's worth tuppence, but I'll give you it anyway. I think John Lennon is the one who paid the price for the Beatles' fame and fortune. Because he's the only one that went on the Spanish holiday with Brian Epstein. And I think that was the price he paid. Anglo. Beatles and Rolling Stones are considered by some to be Russian psyops, with all their anti-war songs and sentiments became popular. Thoughts? Ah, I don't think so myself, to be honest. But it's a nice idea. You know, it fits in well, that idea. Uh, but no, I don't think so. I think we were all like that, Anglo, me included. I mean, I've got a song, well, more than one, but on the B side of my single was uh, an anti Berlin Wall song, an anti Ruski song, because that was our feeling in the day. And when I look back on it, I realise that I and the rest of us, including Lennon and all these other fellas who became rich and famous, we were all victims of propaganda of the day. Now, if he was alive now, I mean, he might argue against that idea, but I see that quite plainly, that we were victims of the propaganda that was going around. That's what I see. Oh, there's a honey monster. Good evening. A while since you've been here, sir or madam. So I don't see it quite that way, but I understand why some would think that. It's a nice idea because it fits neatly together. But I don't think that's really what was behind it. I think we were all victims of propaganda. And like most working class people, we're against war because it doesn't take very long before you realise that it's working class people who go and die in them. You you know that yourself from your own life. How long did it take you to realise that? Well, it doesn't take very long for you to understand why war's a bad thing because you and people like you are going to die in it, as always. But added to that, there was a lot of propaganda, just like today. Well, it's worse today than it was back in the 60s. But it was there. And Lenin was as much a victim of propaganda as we all were. But like anyone who's rich and famous, as he was, he had a voice, a public voice that the rest of us didn't have. So yeah, it's a nice idea for a conspiracy, but I don't think it's real. It might have been tried, I suppose, I don't think it really was at work in the way that, you know, using the word like psyop suggests. I don't see that. Ultra is saying, I liked Lennon until I realised he was, for me, a globalist and imagined a world without borders. Again, this idealism there. I think that's more idealism than it is politics. You know, it is an ideal without being political about it. It's really a song about a world without war, a world without interracial hatred, etc., etc. This is what it's really about. It's a in many ways it's a naive song, but it came at a certain point. Like a lot of songs they need to come at a certain point in history, and then they catch on. I'm not here to defend it. I'm just saying this is my thoughts on it. And I think that's what he was. I think he was someone, especially John Lennon, as far as I see, he was used by all sorts of people, including that wife of his, perhaps more than anyone else. She used them for her own means to promote her and what she called art. That's what I see there. And she, from the outside looking in, obviously, it looked to me as though she was the one that pushed him into all of that anti-war stuff. Not saying he wouldn't have been into it, but I don't think he would have been into it quite in the way that he was. I think it was Yoko Ono who pushed all that onto him. That's just my thoughts. So I think, you know, when you look at the song and the way that you're looking at it, and I understand why you look at it that way, because that's an easy, straightforward, and realistic way to look at that song, as I've done myself. But the other way to look at it is, as I say, it's more of an idealistic song. It's a song that I could imagine a lot of people writing, because full idealism. And by the time he's writing that song, he has been surrounded by lots of people who are telling him how much of a genius he is, as well as the fandom. There's a lot of things at work there to help produce that kind of song. And as I say, I'm not making excuses, because I can see it in those terms myself, and I do from time to time see it in those terms. It's an ideal song if you're a globalist, but I don't think it was written that way in the way that we would use it. I really don't. I think it was more innocently written than could be made a case for today. It's easy. I think it's easier today to make a case for the song to be a globalist song, because, as I say, on a surface level, that's what it is. But I don't think that's the way I want to believe, maybe that's a better way to put it. I want to believe that that's not how he wrote it. I think I want to believe that he was writing that from an idealistic point of view. That's what I want to believe. Now, I could be wrong. The Honey Monster. Robert is saying they were an Epstein operation. I certainly wouldn't disagree with you there, Ultra. He's been very, very good for his beloved Russia, Mr. Putin. And he's, as far as I know, he's not done anything to us. As far as I know. It's a certain group of people who hate him and hate Russia. And it's always been a certain group of people, historically. And that's why they want to break it up. That's why they want to balkanize it. Bass is saying that John Lennon was more than just a champagne socialist. I'm sure. Well, again, you got to remember the man's roots, and he had working class roots, very troubled roots, admittedly, which is shameful. But sometimes that's the way life is. I've never heard that one, Budgie. John Lennon was told in the early 70s the New World Order were behind their success. They were used as cultural change. Well, thank you. I'll try and remember that, sir. I'm doing all right, my friend, as well as can be expected. Good point, Ultra. 200 million Europeans died in war. The world can't stop talking about a few small caps. Excellent point. Excellent point. And here we are back at it again. Europeans killing Europeans. That one old bird was a ninja. You know, I heard a story from back then, which really set me aback, to be honest. You know, it just, maybe I'm wrong in what I'm about to say, but this is how I felt about it. I felt it it just hit my working class values terribly, this story. And it was John Lennon and his first wife were out someplace in London, obviously. And they were at that point in his life when he had a Rolls Royce. If you remember, he had a Rolls Royce. And they were leaving this place, wherever they were, right? It's not as though they were playing a gig or anything, they weren't. So him and his wife come out, opened the back door and slid in to the back of the rolls. And Yoko Ono slid into the car in the back seat along with them, shut the door behind her, and sat there and was driven back to his house in the country. Remember, he had this big house in the country that he'd bought. And that just kind of shocked my working class sensibilities that she had the brass neck to do that. She just get in the car along with him and his wife. I know it's not a big thing, but it just, my God, imagine that woman doing that. As I say, it probably says more about me than it does about them. You don't know what to believe half the time. At least I don't. Oh, there's another one I've never heard. Tavistock created, says the honey monster. I don't know. I just don't know. Streaky. Some description, Streaky. Her art looked like something a crack-ridden chimp would produce with 4 arms. It's just awful. It's one of the things that we all have to live with, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure you've all done it. I know I've done it. I say from time to time, I'm sorry I know what I know. I wish I didn't know half of what I know. And yet at the same time, I want to know. I'm driven by curiosity. And I'm sure that you folks are all the same. Half the time you're saying you don't want to know, and the other half of the time you need to know. Imagine all the people, says Anglo. We're Scouse, not English. Fuck off, Lennon. I haven't seen a person for about 2 weeks, says Honey Monster. I see it. I see that as a terrible tragedy, Ultra. Do you care for them? He's asking. It's a different, it's an emotional way to put it. Can you care for people you don't personally know? I think you can. Is there a limit? Is there a number that it's difficult or impossible to go by? I don't know. I remember the first time I was struck by the horror of war, and that was when I read a poem, Suicide in Trenches. It had an enormous impact on me, and yet I've never known, and I didn't know anyone who was in the First World War. None of my family was in the First World War, to the best of my knowledge. Nor did I know anyone in the First World War, but the poem had an enormous effect on me. So much so that I've never really got past the First World War because of that poem. Never mind all the other wars after it. So I don't know about the statement you're making, Ultra. 200 million Europeans died, comma, do you care for them? I care that they died, and I care that they died and nothing really changed. So the question arises, why did they die? What was the point of their deaths? Or maybe I'm taking your statement a wee bit too far. I don't know. I don't know. You don't think that was suicide, Robert? Now, you may well be right. I've never given it any thought, to be honest. You may well be right, though. Anglo, our German Greek royalty still haven't got over the Ruskies slaughtering their cousins during the Bolshevik Revolution. That's another tragedy, that. All of these families that they were connected to refused to take them. The Germans wouldn't take them. As you say, the ones in this country wouldn't take them either. Nobody would take them. Different John Lennon. Free love, John, says Treble M. A Scottish lass would have beaten her into next week, says Honey Monster. It's lately true. What are some of the good parts of the Scottish countryside to visit? Asks Mr. Johnston. Dead on 11, of course. Anywhere on the west coast, Mr. Johnson. The west coast is much more dramatic visually than the east coast. So anywhere on the west coast is worth a visit. But if you were ever thinking of coming to Scotland for a holiday of any kind, bring plenty of money because it's very expensive. B&B places are very expensive, always have been. So are the hotels. So is everything in the west coast and the east coast. Very expensive. And it's always been that way. Honey Monster is asking, he's not a royalist, he's saying, but anyone reckon Kate's been done in? Streaky says she's been done in at least 3 times. Ultra saying, I like these wee streams, keeping us normal people sane, talking to like-minded people. We are not alone, and our kids will return to a normal world. And they will. And they will. I think that's part of it. I would go with that, Streaky. Just to keep people occupied. She could be in her bed. She could be lazy, taking a lazy streak and saying, I can hang with this. Not going to do anything for a while. They have no effect on our lives. They don't have an impact on our lives. All they're interested in is their lives and how comfortable it is and keeping it that way. Ultra saying, sorry, John, the 200 million Europeans was meant for an idiot in chat. She was pro small cap, I think. All right, okay, that's fine. But it's a decent question. I mean, it does pose that philosophical question, doesn't it? Do you need to know the people before you can more for them? I don't think you can in this abstract way because it's such a number. I mean, 200 million is such a number, isn't it? You couldn't possibly know all those folk. And even if you knew one, it, it couldn't be then amplified into the 200 million either, could it? But the 200 million can't represent us. And then therefore that way you say, well, it's not just the 200 million that is being talked about now. It's about 200 million plus parents, parents, and possibly wives, girlfriends, children. So the number is actually greater than 200 million once you take account of these other factors. And once you take these other factors, they become, in my view, they become less of a casualty of war and become more of people with families. And therefore, that makes them more readily identifiable, in my view. And so, although it's a huge number and you can't possibly think about it in terms of individuals, but you can't do it that way because it's a huge number of folk. It's like this business in Ukraine, the amount of people that have been slaughtered on both sides. It's disgraceful, it's outrageous, like Gaza as well. We have to try and contextualize all these things because we're human beings and it affects us. Whether we like it or not, it does. And when once you stop, I think if once you stop even trying to conceptualize it, that's when you're in danger of becoming less human, less emotional, less concerned. And that's a bigger danger. That's my view. But it is tough. I mean, it's really, really tough. Because we're sitting here talking about it, considering it in our minds, uh, knowing that we're helpless to try and change it. My granddad, says Linda, was in it for the duration from Gallipoli to the liberation of Paris. Maybe being a furrier sergeant kept him out of it, kept him out of some of it. I feel for my Caucasian brothers, usually. I didn't read that properly. I feel for my Caucasian European brothers, says Anglo. Only wondering if he faked it, John, not being bumped off. Who knows? Some things we'll never know. Rory, my grandfather was wounded going over the top on the first day of the Somme in 1916 with just nearly 2,000 men. Less than 200 returned. Yeah, huge losses. The First World War, huge. Took them about 2 years to figure out how to try and deal with it. It's awful, really awful. My missus is Scottish, so I know that for a fact, says Honey Monster. These people have got to go. And I would agree with that, Ultra. I don't come here to argue or cause arguments about other folk. And I put our people first. However, I don't shut my mind off to the fact that there are other people in the world who are getting hard done by. Honey Monster, I have a place in Largs now. Oh, that's nice. Bought it August last year, renting it out at the moment. My old pal Jerry lived in Largs. He liked it in Largs. Stalin got rid of a lot of Jews who fled to the US. Now they have infiltrated American politics. They are getting revenge on the Russians. Well, they also made up considerable number of the Bolsheviks. Let us not forget. And Stalin, let us not forget, gave the Jews a place of their own there. And this is the capital of that place. And he gave it specifically for Jewish people. As far as I know, it's still there. I would way a heavy bet on it, but as far as I'm aware, it's still there. It still exists. But that may be wrong now. So here's the outro music, folks. I think you're right. I think that is one of the major problems we've all got, and it needs to be sorted. Couldn't agree more. With the to be continued. If you're asking me, Mr. Johnston, the answer is very limited. The thing about the west of Scotland you have to remember, and that is we're terrible here for midges. That's your big problem here, midges. Honey Monster, well, good night to you too, sir. I'm going to start the music up. I'll be back on Friday. Look out for this new thing, these short videos. Let me know what you think when I see you next, and we'll take it from there. So, as I always say, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until Friday evening, all being well, I'll speak to you then. And thank you all for being here tonight. So enjoy.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim, hides the fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart.
Don't know that one, budget.
Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
Love's much more,
So much more
than we can know.
than we could ever possibly know.
We are one small glow,
But a very important
in the
role.
eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, past the consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
All together, man.
But we're much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we could ever possibly.
We are one small glow
But an important role.
in the eternal flow. But life's much more and we can know we are one small glow in the eternal flow.
Well, that's really interesting, Treble M. I didn't know that. Amazing. So anyway, folks, you take care, and I'll see you hopefully all on Friday. God, they've got a roof as well. Glory. Right, that's it. Take care, folks, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks again for coming. Bye just now.